companies in general, banks in particular, need to get a grasp of the way customers are interacting with them, not anymore mainly through physical retail channels, but now through digital, but in particular now the mobile app.
The pandemic has acted as a powerful catalyst for market dynamics already in play, most notably the switch from in-person to digital banking channels. Apps collect vast amounts of unstructured customer feedback in the form of verbatim comments that accompany app ratings. These comments used to be mainly complaints about table stakes technical stuff like security, usability, and reliability. But these days, they are as likely to be about complex banking functions or customer journeys such as managing payments or locking and unlocking card features. App data is fast becoming the most reliable single source of customer feedback for the whole bank brand. And because of its universal availability across all brands, it's unique in the power of its market benchmarking capabilities. In this episode, we talk to the latest Touchpoint team member, Nick Young. Nick has more than 20 years' experience in customer analytics, pricing strategy, and revenue optimization for financial services around the globe. He is an expert at leveraging deep learning techniques and predictive analytics to transform business processes and reimagine customers' experiences. During his career, Nick has pioneered the use of predictive analytics and big data for customer behavioral forecasting and optimization. He's also led companies in the UK and in North America. Welcome, Mr. Nick Young, the irrepressible Mr. Nick Young. How are you today, my friend?
Extremely well. This sunny, fine morning in deepest Middle England. How are you, Glenn, this evening? It's dark.
Pretty damn marvellous. This is the deepest, darkest middle of England. It's actually looks like a stunning day out there. But anyway, welcome to Touchpoints. Welcome to Touchpoint, the company. We are so excited to have you on board with the wealth of knowledge that you bring to us. And let's kick off by how I always start with these. Give us the 2 to 5 minute life story of how you ended up where you are today.
So I suppose I've spent about, it seems like an awfully long time now, about the past 20 years doing customer data analytics, and the critical thing I've been interested in is how to operationalize the insights to create business value. And what I've learned I have a lot of mistakes, but I've learned a lot. So what I've learned is that it's quite interesting, the best way to operationalize insights from data analytics, customer data analytics, is to somehow bring the customer to life for the people closest to the customer that have to make decisions based on the content of the insights. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that the analytics can't really be a black box. You have to be able to somehow transform the segmentation in particular into real customer personas. And I've been doing this in some fairly, important from a business point of view, but not necessarily the most glamorous areas. Like I probably at some point in my life became the world expert in the somewhat obscure subject of predicting mortgage churn. And, nobody's going to win an Oscar for being the mortgage churn world expert. The thing that's interesting to me about Touchpoint and Epiphany is that they are actually at the leading edge of this brand new area called AI-based natural language understanding. But most excitingly, it's being applied to an area, business problem, right in the middle, at the heart of the leading edge of where businesses are today, and in particular where financial services businesses are today, which is trying to realign themselves around the digital experience of their customers. And because things now move at, speed of light, to be able to respond both operationally and strategically to how customers are both feeling and thinking, as well as how they're behaving. Because again, my experience now says that in order to be able to understand behavior, you need to understand customers' thoughts and feelings.
So why are customer feedback analytics so hot right now?
Well, I mean, that's the point, really. It's because companies in general, banks in particular, need to get a grasp of the way customers are interacting with them, not anymore mainly through physical retail channels, but now through digital, but in particular now the mobile app. So we've been tracking in my kind of consultancy work over the past couple of years. We issued a monthly tracking report, which did something really interesting. It tracked, first of all, customers' movements using some very, very complex mobile phone data. And then it started to look at their channel usage. So the first thing that we observed as soon as COVID happened, and this is from a very large database in North America, is that, clearly in terms of customer movements, they were moving away from branch centres. So they're moving away from town centres, city centres. And then we could observe there was a corresponding rise in the use of digital to not just to interact with your kind of current account behavior, but to buy new products. So then if you start to look at the stats, which are really interesting, for example, and this is just a single use case. In the UK, 60% of net new current banking accounts are opened on an app, not just on digital generally, online generally, but on an app. So that app has now become effectively, for many people who, my son has never set foot inside a bank branch. So to him, the app is the bank. And that means two things, really. One is that if something's goes wrong with the app, then effectively in his view, that's bringing the whole bank down. So, the performance, technical performance of the app and the customer experience of the app is actually impairing if it doesn't work. It's either, enhancing or impairing the brand perception of the entire bank. And in fact, just very recently, in Touchpoint, we've been looking at a couple of examples of bank mobile apps, which have launched a brand new, all singing, all dancing, redesigned app. And both of these have completely bombed for one reason or another. I mean, and it's not just the kind of innate conservatism of customers who hate a new UI. It's really fundamental things that are going wrong around the authentication process, or the most obvious core customer journeys, like in the US and Canada, check depositing. So to answer, it's a long-winded way of answering your question, because the reason that the natural language understanding applied to business problems operationally is so important is that the apps are also collecting this incredibly large and rich and fast-moving repository of customer feedback about how users are feeling about different aspects of their app experience, banking app experience in this case, both positive and negative. And the business problem up to now has been how to actually harness and make sense of all that fairly random feedback in such a way that you can package it up, create a kind of conceptualized ontology out of it, and most importantly, to be able to apply that to both strategic and operational business decisions by the echelons within the organization that need to make those decisions. So that's why, I just find this, an incredibly exciting area. And, the reason I joined Touchpoint is that, in my view, they are the leading exponents of using natural language understanding in order to make sense of customer feedback from verbatim app reviews.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've talked a bit in the past in and around Clarabridge and Medallia, and I think the terminology that you used is around different ways of calibrating the heat in the kitchen. I want to expand on that a little bit, and the whole Clarabridge Medallia, an almost phenomenon around how they are out there collecting data, and really where the difference is in getting those insights and driving the action. So what is that? What is the difference between something like that and what you're doing today?
Yeah, good question. So Medallia, is a broad kind of customer experience platform, which probably incorporates aspects of natural language understanding. Clarabridge is more a natural language understanding platform. Incidentally, both of these companies kind of got huge valuation. So, Clarabridge was acquired by Qualtrics last year for over $1 billion, and I think Medallia's latest valuation is over $6 billion. So it's, just from a, financially market capitalization point of view, this is a really hot space. I think the difference with Epiphany, which is Touchpoint's own natural language understanding solution, is it goes a lot further towards creating a UI and a workflow to the verbatim data that is attuned specifically to the needs of the business user and business decision making. Mm-hmm. And it's quite interesting in terms of, again, my experience in terms of product development says that you really need to sort of focus it in on the needs of a particular subset of users. So for the mortgage thing we did was, just targeted a handful of people in the world who are responsible for managing mortgage retention. So the way the Epiphany product roadmap is going is to specifically tune it to financial services and people in financial services whose job it is to either maintain the apps, the DevOps team, or to orchestrate customer journeys within the app for particular customer tasks like buying new products, or to keep adding or maintaining or enhancing feature functionality around essential business tasks like payments or current account statements. And then lastly, and I think this is most interesting, the customer experience and brand teams that are really responsible for the whole integrity of the customer's relationship with the bank as a brand. And that's, to me, the most interesting thing. It's almost like exhaust fumes that come out of the app reviews. But we've now got this whole, category of feedback trendily called customer love. And it's really hard to shift the needle in customer love. If something goes wrong, that needle moves damn quickly. And that's the most damaging because, as I was trying to say earlier, that's where the experience of the app actually impacts their entire experience of the bank. And all the bank's got, really, if you think about it, is its brand. And, that's something that goes way beyond, the people at the sharp end of the bank to, right up to the C-suite and the CEO.
So, Nick, for the uninitiated that don't know a huge amount in regards to how we look at engaged customer ratings and banking app feedback overall, give us a simple explanation of engaged customer ratings and how it differs from your overarching app score rating and the impact that they have. There's a lot to unpack in that.
No, that's all right. Right. So the concept that effectively drives the epiphany customer feedback analytics in the case of app stores is engaged customer rating. And an engaged customer is one that leaves both a rating and a verbatim comment explaining that or adding context to that rating in their feedback. So we filter out, the great unwashed who just leave a rating in a kind of, fairly slapdash kind of way. And we're just left with the people that have left a rating and really thought about it. And the effect of that is really interesting because if you just look at the vanilla ratings, most banks get like 4 or 5 or something like that, or potentially 1 or 2. But it's really hard to kind of prize apart the banks in the competitor set in relation to their ranking by rating, because effectively, everybody gets more or less the same. As soon as you filter out the people who only leave a rating, you suddenly get everything gets shown in kind of vivid, sharp relief. And if I can just try and share my screen.
And for those of you that are going to be listening to this, we'll try and give you a good colourful description of what's on screen.
What we did was compared banks' engaged customer rating with a kind of common business KPI, which is return on risk-weighted assets, which is broadly how efficiently they manage to extract value from their customers. And, we were quite surprised when we saw this because it shows that remarkably, that there is a distinct relationship. So the banks that have a higher engaged customer rating score, just in app reviews, actually achieve, in general, a better return on risk-weighted assets.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, pretty impressive because it means that the hypothesis that the app now is driving the performance of the bank is becoming true. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that the concept of the engaged customer rating is also itself very predictive of a bank performance. So for those two reasons, this is an interesting demonstration. Obviously, the correlation could and will be stronger, but I mean there are lots and lots of different aspects of performance driving return on risk-weighted assets. But clearly, the customer experience of the app is a significant contributor to that.
Mm. So, again, there's a lot of people out there who look at banking industry and think it's old and stilted and stuck in the past. But it is at the fast, really approaching the leading edge of customer feedback analytics. Why is that?
Well, it's because banking is now moving, as I said earlier, at the speed of light, channel migration has taken place, and all the investment in the bricks and mortar of the branch, has become slightly deprioritized in relation to the need to invest in apps. And this is the app is now the new battleground. So we run these ranking benchmarking reports every month now, and it's clear that there are obvious winners and losers. And if you wanted to kind of make some money in the stock market, you could do a lot worse than to follow those benchmarking reports, because they do as you've just seen, they are highly predictive of actual bank business financial performance. So I don't think it'll be very long before these type of customer experience metrics start finding their way into financial reports, but annual and quarterly reports, because they are the mainstay of the ultimately the value of the brand. And this can't be a more important area for them.
Yeah, and they also talk about those processes outside of the app itself, like customer service, product features, and what does it all mean as far as output goes for customer feedback and for people like chief digital officers and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, obviously the chief digital officer is one of the main consumers of these insights, because he has to run the channel, and he's ultimately responsible for its ongoing success or failure. And obviously he's got people responsible for DevOps, journeys, features, and all the rest of it in putting that development roadmap. But as we've seen, it's increasingly kind of spilling beyond the chief digital officer into the custodians of the whole bank brand. And it won't be very long. Well, it's happening now. Actually, we are being asked to help digital teams prepare C-level reports. In other words, all this stuff is going to go straight up to the operating board, because it's now recognised to be, the main signal in terms of their customers.
Yeah, it's mission critical feedback, right? Yeah. So there's all sorts of other reports and things out there. Your JD Powers and your Ipsos. There's NPS. There is a plethora of options that are out there for people, and they all have their benefits. What is it that gets you excited? Not just epiphany, but what are the things that are out there that you look at and you think these are helping businesses progress forward, and why?
Yeah, I mean the JD Powers and the Ipsos is a fairly old school in that they're they are very kind of highly reputable and published widely, so people have to take notice of them. But they're fairly old school, so they're kind of quant research with kind of closed questions. They sample, but the sample isn't necessarily representative of people that are engaged with their app at that point in time. So I think they have they're important, but they have limited utility from the point of view of practitioners, people who have to kind of operate within the bank, because they don't tell you very much about what to do if you are some way down their league table. So they're not much diagnostic tool. The one that comes, I think, closest to the type of benchmarking reports that Touchpoint are issuing from Epiphany for the banks is Bain Prism. And obviously Bain are the owners of MPS and invent. They've got the brand name for customer. That is good. It's pretty detailed. It bothers to actually drill down to specific customer journeys and benchmark banks against those journeys, but it doesn't really utilize customer feedback, verbatim feedback, to create those journey ontologies. Those are kind of preconceived. So if a new type of customer journey comes along, something to do with crypto or something to do with buy now, pay later, Bain has to catch up. Whereas Epiphany immediately sees that phenomenon, those new trends, customers talking about those things within the live App Store data, and immediately creates a concept around it and tells you how important that concept is. So the difference, I think, really is that at the end of the day, Epiphany is based on what customers are saying, not what customers are being asked about. And I think that's the important thing, because the question to some extent frames the answer. Whereas with Epiphany, you're actually basing the ontology on customers talking themselves.
Mm-hmm. The scary version of that is you getting the answer before you potentially needing to ask the question.
No, exactly.
Well, my friend, we could go on all night, or all day in your case, talking about this. It's been fantastic just scratching the surface of some of these insights, and I look forward to having many, many more conversations with you as we progress over the months, looking at the various performance in the different markets. So thanks for giving us your time. We're excited to have you on board, and really looking forward to many more conversations in the weeks and months ahead.
My pleasure, Glenn. Me too.
Thanks for listening into this episode, which is made possible by the team at touchpointgroup.com, the customer intelligence company you can partner with to rapidly translate your customer feedback data into actionable insights that will enable you to prioritize actions that make a demonstrable difference. You'll find a link to their website in the show notes. Thanks again. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and see you soon.